I'm Kathy from Eclectic Images, and thank you for joining me today for a bit of card making. So what we're going to do today is an ombre blended technique. So I'm going to be doing some ombre blending both with dry brushes and also with watercolouring, so that's good fun. I've called the class Unicorn in Denim because I'm using denim-y sort of colours, and the main stamp that we're going to use is our Unicorn Beauty. So this is a lovely big stamp, lots of room for colouring, but the same technique would work equally well with the Siamese cats, the Dreamcatcher, or any of our mandalas. But today we're going to start with the unicorn, and our inks that we're using is from the Catherine Pooler Spa collection and some out of the new Beach Resort collection. So I'll do a little bit with some Sea Glass and Bay Breeze, how nice are they? But also with the new Blue collection. So adding to the range that already had Stone Blue and Juniper Mist, the new range actually brings now in two more colours, Tranquil and Cove Blue. So we go from very light colour through to two medium colours and into a deeper one, which makes your ombre blending really easy to do. We'll also be using a little bit of Versamark, which is for our embossing. We'll be embossing in copper, and I'll be using for my blending, I'm going to use a mixture of the dry brushes and also the new Tim Holtz applicator tool with some dome foam. It's always just good to say dome foam, isn't it? Okay, let's get started. So using the cotton blend cardstock, I'll wipe over it with anti-static pad just so our embossing powder just sticks to where we want it. I've already got Unicorn Beauty loaded up on an acrylic block, so we're just going to ink him thoroughly with the Versamark ink. Stamping right in the middle and press down nice and firmly over the whole image. Bring in our bit of scrap paper. Well, that was a bit loud, sorry. Bring in our scrap paper and the copper embossing powder. See how he looks. So I'll just get a fine brush just to tap that down. Make sure the whole design area is covered. Tap it off on the side. Flip it over, give it a good tap on the back. And then just check whether I've got any little fingerprints on there that have picked up embossing powder. Looks pretty good. Now, excess powder back into your jar. How's Matthew keeping up with the camera work today? I'm a bit all over the place, so we'll see how he goes. Okay, that to one side, get our heat gun out. And sorry, we're about to make some noise. Now you can do a little bit of your heating from the back, which just helps to soften the embossing powder and not flick any bits of powder anywhere. It also helps too if it's a cold day and your card feels a bit damp. Not damp, feels cold, it stops your card buckling so much. So if we do some heating from the back and then some from the front. Some colours like white are actually good to do all of the embossing from the back. I think we can see that starting to change. So just wait till it all goes shiny and then move on to the next bit. And then we're just going to hold the card up and have a look across with the light to see that it's all shiny and there's no bits that are dull, which would mean that they haven't been actually embossed yet. Okay, now I've already made a acetate mask that just fits neatly over him. Now you'll see it has got some bits of double-sided tape on, but those are a little bit worn, so they're not going to do a lot of sticking. I'll actually have to hold it fairly closely in place myself. Now I'm just going to bring into shot one that I've already done the background of. So this is using the 4 blues. So going from Tranquil through to Stone Blue, Cove Blue, and then finally into Juniper Mist. And you can see we get this really nice blend. So having 4 colours, 3 or 4 colours, gives you a real advantage to doing your ombre blends. But what we're going to do with this one is actually just use the Sea Glass and the Bay Breeze. So I'll show you how that you can do a blend with just 2 colours. So I'll start off with my blending brush. I'm going to just position that acetate so that the unicorn is fully covered, and I've got a fairly even border all around the edge because this border is going to show. So then we start off just at the, well, you can start anywhere on the card. You could go, your ombre could be diagonally across, but I'm going to start at the top and work down. So we start off with just picking up a little bit of colour and just dust it lightly onto the card, just with circles. Although you can also do sweeping motions with these brushes. I do like these brushes for working on matte cardstock. I find I still use the long-handled ones that you've seen me working with whenever I go to gloss cardstock, but these do a great job on the matte, on the cotton blend. Now you can work from the edge of your card in, or you can work from the mask up. But either way, if you're working from an area, like from your pad or from the mask, it does mean that your brush is moving by the time you hit the cardstock. Now I'm just going to take this a little bit down the sides. I'm just going to tilt the card, move the card around a little bit, both for my ease, but also so you can see, you're not trying to look through my hand at what I'm doing. Okay, now we're going to start building these colours up more. So whereas with the blues, I would swap to another blue, here I'm just going to layer more of the same colour and then just go softer when I want to blend it back into the other. So you can see we're getting shades even though we're still using the same colour. So let's add more into this side. And again, I still take the colour a little bit further than where I want it to be, and that gives me somewhere to blend my next colour back over. And once I've got that colour to the intensity I want, and I've got less ink on my brush, I can just go back up and make sure it's really nicely blended into that light green. Okay, now we're going to swap to the Bay Breeze. Now I don't need to change brushes at this stage. Just going to pick up some of that, just a small amount. I'm not over inking the brush because I don't want this to be too strong. So start off putting it where I want it and then blend it up into the first colour. Now I'm just going to turn the card all the way around. This again is both because I find it easier working away from me, but also so that you can see what's happening. So we're inking up and then we're pushing it into the other colour. And then blending down to where we're going to come in with a stronger version of Bay Breeze. I'm just double checking. Yes, it is Bay Breeze I'm working with. So I could keep working with this same brush and just keep layering more ink on. But I do find these brushes, if you get a lot of dark colour, unless you have enough of them that you've got one for light and one for dark colour of greens and one for light blue and one for dark blue, if you've only got one to cover blues and one to cover greens, if you get a lot of ink colour on it, it can be hard to clean it out and go back to the light ones. And I do find that the dome foams are really good for applying a lot of colour. So I'm going to switch now to a dome foam with this so that I can get a richer colour happening on this card without putting so much ink onto my blending brush. Now this is a very juicy new ink pad, so I'm having to be a little bit careful that I don't get too much ink and get blobs. But you find you can work the inks a fair bit until you can get that intensity just how you want it. Okay, I think that is looking pretty good. So let's lift off our acetate and have a look at how our blend is going. That's pretty nice, I reckon. Okay, so that's working with Sea Glass and Bay Breeze. Just going to pop those to one side. Now the next stage is to give this a little spritz with a metallic spray, which is just going to add a bit of texture and give a lovely metallic sheen. Now if I had already on this one where I was playing around with the Siamese cat, this one was done with just two colours again, pink champagne and sangria. Sorry, Matthew, get those around an angle you can see. So again, but I had a little bit of mauve on my brush, so it actually looks a bit like I've got three colours happening in there. Now with this one, I did the watercolouring and then decided that I would spritz the card. So I left my mask on so that the cat blending would not get spritzed. I wanted the texture of the spritzing in the background, but not over the cat. This one that I haven't coloured yet, I can just spritz away, which actually means there's going to be a little bit of metallic there that will pick up when I'm doing the watercolouring. So let me just bring in another bit of scrap paper that's got a lot more messy, and I don't mind getting a lot of water on that. And I'm going to give my metallic spray. This one I'm using is the Colour Blast Bling, which is a really great gold. And we're going to spritz quite generously over that card. Now I don't mind if I get a mixture of fine spritzing and blobs. And quite often what will happen is some colour's going to bleed into that area. We're getting some blobs of gold on the unicorn. That's all fine, that's all just going to add to the look of it. The one that we're about to switch to, we actually got quite some blue ink coming in. And I like that, but if I didn't want that, that's where I could leave the mask on and then the spritzing is just going to happen around the outside. Okay, so I would also now just lay a bit of paper towel over that and just lift off. And there we've got our beautiful ombre background. Now, we're going to switch to a card that's already, seen as that's a little bit wet. We're going to switch to the one I've already done the background in the blues. And I'm just going to fold over a new bit of paper so I don't, when I'm watercolouring, that I don't pick up any of those greens. Okay, so now we're going to do our watercolouring. Now we could put our inks onto an acrylic block, or we can just put them onto our mat. Let's move our pinks out of the zone. So I'm going to start off with the softer one. Put some Tranquil there and just make a palette as I go down my mat. Some Cove blue and finally a little bit of Juniper mist. So that's making me a palette that I can paint from. So using my water brushes, I've got a, where are we? We've got a medium and a broad on the go. I'm going to start with the broad, and there's different ways of doing this. You can actually start with your lighter colour, just make sure you've got a little bit of water flowing through your brush. We can start with the lighter colour and actually blend over the whole area. If we're working with an ombre colour scheme, so we're working with all the same shades of one colour, we could start from here and work up and then just keep layering the other colours on. If, however, you're working with a couple of, say you're going from yellow, orange into pink, so a rainbow blend rather than an ombre blend, we might start off with just doing one colour up the top and just blending that out and then work our other colours gradually up into it. I hope that makes sense. Maybe I need to do a rainbow blended one in another class so we can see that. Okay, so I'm just going to pick up some of our next colour and pop that on and blend it up till it meets with our first one. Give my brush a clean and just soften off that edge so it doesn't get a chance to dry on me before I get ready to blend there. So let's just take a bit more colour up here. I can clean my brush and just go between the two colours until I'm happy I've got a really nice soft blend between them. I'm now going to start going into the deeper colours with the medium brush, and I'll keep my broad brush clean for doing the blending. So let's pop that one on. This is the Cove blue. Making sure I get into the main there. And again, just pop a little bit of water on that edge there so that it doesn't dry out before we start wanting to blend into it. And go between my two colours there until I'm getting a really nice blend. Now there I've just gone over the edge, which happens sometimes even when you're embossing. So I'll just get a clean brush and just push that colour back, and then we might grab our paper towel and just dry that so that there's no water there to encourage ink to blend back out into it. Now let's come in with our deeper colour. This is where it gets a little bit scary. Okay, now I definitely don't want this drying before I get my blending done. Flip your card around and you can get the tip of the brush right into that edge there. And I'm going to just push some ink onto the card and then let it meet the ink. Rather than dragging the colour out, which actually worked really well then. Maybe you can just drag the colour out. But you can also put water on your card and then introduce it into the ink colour. And that'll encourage, as you can see, just a really nice blend of the colour coming out. Now, I still want to soften any edges. So let's go over them before they get a chance to dry. And we're going to soften that into the Cove blue. And sometimes you've got to, as you mess with the colour, you've got to go back over some of your previous blending, just till you're happy that you blended without any transition lines. So I'm just watching that as it dries a bit, just to see if I need to add any more colour in. I can clean my brush off a little bit. And just going back to the Cove blue, just want to add a bit more of that into the mix. And just get my broad brush just to blend those edges out. If I'm getting too much colour, I can actually use my brush just to push it back a bit, or I can drag it further in. Okay, let's push it back a little bit there. Just go over my edges. I'm happy with how that blend's going. I'm just going to do a final drag up that way, and then I'm going to do a bit of a push back. Now I'm pretty happy that that is giving us a really nice blend. Now we do need to add a little bit more colour to him because he needs his mane and his unicorn horn. So we're going to pick up, I'm just cleaning my brush off. So I'll pick up some of the lighter blue just to pop on the horn there. And that was quite wet, so I'm just coming in with the paper towel, dabbing a little bit off, just so it doesn't get mixed in with the deeper colours, because I want to use, I think I'll go with the Juniper Mist for his mane. Now, where the mane ends, rather than trying to follow definite lines, I'm just again going to push a bit of water in there and let it bleed. Sometimes it's fun just to let the inks do their own thing. So turn your card around so you're always working at a comfortable angle for you, and I'm wanting to be able to push the end of the brush right up to that edge of that embossing. So I could actually just do some little strokes of mane, just pull it out, wiggle the brush a bit to get it looking like mane, and I'll continue that to continue it looking the same. I'll continue it on here, and then when we get down the bottom, we'll blend it out the same as I did with the forelock. So put a bit more colour in and just tease it out with the brush. Have a mouthful of water. Just tease it out. Okay, so we're just going to use the broad brush, just to add some water in and tease that mane out a bit. So where I've already put the Juniper Mist, we just push a bit of water into it. I can see I need to fill a bit more colour in there, just to make his mane look like a mane. And just tease it out a bit. Okay. So that's basically our card. Now, before I get blue ink everywhere, if I was doing card making myself, I would probably use these colours that are on my mat to make another background, because you could do lots of smooshing on that. But because I don't want to stick my elbow in it and then put on my card, I'm actually just going to give it a bit of a spritz and wipe it clean. So the one last bit to do on this card is to create a little bit of a border for it. Now I've already got it mounted on some black cards so you can see how it looks with that nice dark frame to it. But I'm also going to add a little bit of an extra border just using a Sharpie. Now you could actually, if you're a bit nervous, you could actually use a ruler and rule the edge, but it's quite fun to sometimes just be a bit random and just let it happen a bit. You can always add a few little squiggly lines in. bit higher on that side. And there's our card. I'll just bring it forward so that it's on the black cloth there, not on my messy pad. And Matthew can get a good shot of it. So that's the ombre blending with the dry brushes, and then the ombre blending with your watercolouring. I hope you like that one. And oh, I should tell you actually too, the embossing powder on that one was silver pearl compared with the copper that we used with the greens. Cool, okay, thank you very much for being with us today, for watching this one. Hope you enjoy having a go yourself.